I like told Linda this morning, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. It doesn't leave till March. You left yesterday.
Wrong way, because he plays a critical role.
I mean, he's got 1 minute. It's already recorded. Where? Right there.
Is that Zoom?
Yes, it's Zoom. You'll save the memory for all that listening.
Thank you. I understand.
Gotta turn on the mic. Here again.
I trust you.
Good morning. Good morning. Microphones are my favorite thing. My name's Ken Brusson. I'm the current leadership chair of the leadership team for Warrenton United Methodist Church. And I'm just going to do a brief introduction for the town hall. This town hall is really not about what has occurred in the past. This is about hope and about the future of this church and the future of the land that we have on this church property in collective. Tim? After Tim opens with a prayer, we'll have a brief couple of leadership team members will speak, and then we'll go into the meat of it, which is with Chip Carson.
All right, let's pray. God, we are thankful for this time, and we're thankful that you have given us this opportunity to share, to begin to dream and to take that dream and listen for your guidance. And so bless us as we move into this space spiritually and emotionally and relationally as we go into this town hall. In Christ's name, amen. Linda's next. Linda is upstairs. So anyway.
Sam.
Oh, that's why it was.
Mic drop.
Hold on, I'm not going to blow your ears because I know that's going to happen. All right, Sam.
Check. All right, that works. I know Ken said the meeting is about the future, which is also exciting, but I just want to take 2 steps into the past as well to kind of get you up to date in the spirit of a town hall. To introduce myself, my name is Sam Parker. I am the finance chair. Very proud of the team that we have with the finance team. Cindy Ellis as the treasurer and Laura Wood as the financial secretary. 2 things I thought we should highlight, or actually let's just say 3 things. The first thing being, again, proud of the team, the staff, the finance team through this last, year and a half. It has been nothing but business as usual. So managing through this pandemic has been sometimes feeling your way through the dark, right? But it has been successful, and truly the team is guiding your gifts to the church successfully. The two things I did want to highlight about this year, we were able to take advantage of some of the government stimulus again this year, which was helpful. And also, we successfully completed an audit, an agreed upon procedures audit as specified by the United Methodist General Council on Finance and Administration, or some really long name. But it was a successful audit that was good. So that's just another one of those good checks and balances to make sure that that we are being good stewards of the resources. Right now, we are deep into budget and planning and stewardship. So it's never a dull moment in finance, but we know that that God is watching us. And one of the things, I've been the finance chair right at 3 years now, and I'm a banker by trade. But the term God's economy that you heard earlier from Tim is something I didn't quite know when I first took this job. And it's true. It's fascinating and beautiful to watch that God's economy actually be fulfilled. Again, Sam Parker, Cindy Ellis, Laura Wood, we are open to questions, ideas, thoughts, not just on Sunday mornings, but throughout, because this is all of our resources and church together. Are we opening for questions, Ken, or you want to move forward? Oh, Linda, you were the first one.
I'm sorry. Good morning. I was upstairs taking care of hospitality business, so sorry. I just want to give a little background about hospitality. As you know, that we've been recruiting, inviting people to join our teams. We first started back in a hospitality mode with 4 teams in July of this year. So I guess that's about 3 months, a little over 3 months. And as I look at many of the faces here, I see that almost everyone is on a hospitality team already. We are always in need of people to be welcoming and exude God's love as they're coming into our doors. And so if you're not on a hospitality team, please come and talk to me a little bit about it, and we can find out what the right job maybe is for you. So I don't know, I wanted to recognize the team leaders. Barbara, are you here? There, Barbara Huss, Michelle Smith, and Lauren Parker, and myself. So thank you for those of you who are serving. I hope that what we do makes the pastor's jobs a little bit easier each Sunday so they can focus on what they need to focus. Thank you.
Hospitality.
Well, does anyone have any questions for Sam, or probably not for Sam? Yeah.
I was curious about the giving level compared to our expenditures.
Giving levels compared to expenditures. We're not spending as much. That's
Yeah, we adapt and we adapt and move forward. Always more giving is beneficial. But through, again, government stimulus, through cost savings, through just special gifts. I mean, the shelter from the storm was huge this year. What we've seen for giving is, and you'll see this in the stewardship letter that's coming out. It's actually, this thing
That's a horrible.
doesn't want to work. I can talk loudly.
Talk loudly.
What's been fascinating to watch is that the level of giving, even though maybe the sheer numbers of people that are giving have gone down through this last 18 months, the folks that are giving more, and it's more like almost a concentrated, tightly gripped, more loyal, committed folks to the church. And so that's been a very interesting dynamic that's developed in the last 18 months.
You'll see that on the info sheet that you'll get next week.
Well, I'll just say the leadership team meetings are open meetings unless it's addressing a personnel issue. And we meet every second Wednesday of the month. except for November, where we've pushed it back because of the charge conference to the first week in November. And along with that, the financial,
Leadership meetings are open.
the financials are presented to the leadership team weekly, and then we discuss it once a month. So if somebody is interested in attending that meeting, we are doing it in in a hybrid fashion, where we're meeting in person and on Zoom. So that's available as well for more information.
Recording in progress.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why I couldn't be available to the leadership team. We have a full package, the introductory of our findings, the agreed upon procedures. It wasn't, which is different than a full-blown audit of the numbers. The agreed upon procedures, we dig down to how are you actually managing your monthly figures? It really, it's almost like the Swedish massage of financial audits, where they really dig down deep into the muscles and they say, all right, are you lined up with the right way of doing this? And fortunately, the Methodist Church lays out a whole set of, there's probably 15 different questions. And within each one of those questions, there's subsets of questions. And it gets really CPA accounting, because you can read through it and you still scratch your head, like, what are they testing? But the CPAs know. Certainly, I don't see any reason why it couldn't be available. Sure. If you'd like, so, yeah, absolutely.
Anything else? Well, the main part of what we're going to talk about today is Chip's head of our long-range planning committee, and I just very briefly wanted to just sort of, I went back and looked over in preparation for today our history, and many of you looked at this a couple years ago. We had our 200th anniversary, but you realize in 1781 was the first church in this county, and Francis Asbury, really the founder of Methodism in the United States, was the one who established that. We had our first church in 1818 in Warrenton. And then in 1846, they moved over to Culpeper and Lee Street. In 1912, it was at Winchester and Diagonal, which is our former church, which is now the Warrenton Bible Fellowship. And I had forgotten that in 1955, they bought this land. They bought 5 acres in 55, thinking ahead that there was something that God needed us to do. And then that church decided to move out here. That congregation moved out here with a very close vote. In 1982, this building was built, and we've been here ever since then. And so as we've been talking about the long-range plan and what does it look like with all of this land that's been here for so long, and what does God want us to do, our predecessors had a vision of what God wanted bigger than was theirs at the time. And to me, as the pastor, as one of the pastors here, that kind of weighs heavy on me. Because we are actually carrying the gifts and the weights of this vision that's bigger than us, that they had, that God needed to do something special here on this land. And now we have that. And so we are privileged to carry that vision, but it's also a great responsibility. And so that's what I've been thinking and praying a lot about over the last couple months. And in the last 5 years, we really have begun looking at what does that look like? And so we've realigned with NLI, which Chip's going to talk a little bit about. And in that process, I think God has really brought us to this space where this is a time that we have the opportunity to do some really great stuff. We just have to discern what that looks like. So that's what we're starting. It started, but today we're gonna bring some more folks in on that here with Chip.
Hold the bottom of that.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Chip Carson. I think most of you know me. Couple of things, a little history is important here. The NLI, Next Level Innovations, that we went through, everybody remembers that. Out of that NLI report, there were 5 recommendations of things we should do. And if you remember, the vote on that was overwhelming. 98% of the church voted in favor of that NLI report, which is amazing. But in that NLI report, recommendation number 5 was for us to look at what are we going to do with this land we have. And as Tim said, we had some people here before us that had some foresight. Not only did they buy the 5 acres the church sits on, they bought the land next door. They bought 2 lots over here in the corner. So we have a little more than 11 acres right now that we have available to us to do something with. So people that went before us in this church had some foresight about thinking ahead of what this church might look like in the future. But the NLI report, recommendation number 5, was to look at what are we going to do with the land. The leadership team on purpose put that recommendation number 5 as the last thing to do because the first 4 was enough on our plate when we got started to reorganize the church and the leadership team and all of that sort of thing. So as I went off the leadership team, chair of the leadership team, the team asked me if I would head up, be the lead on the team for this long-range planning. And somehow I said yes, and I have a hard time saying no, I think my problem is. But anyway, we started and then COVID hit, and we decided that maybe we should just take a break during COVID because we weren't sure what it was going to look like on the other side. And so we just kind of took some time off and said, let's just kind of wait and see what this works out to be. And we started back up again, meeting, and about 3 months ago or so, we started, and we've kind of pulled together information about what resources we have here, what the land looks like, what it's zoned as. I mentioned a little over 11 acres. Most of it is zoned residential R10, which is 10,000 square feet lots. The 2 corner pieces down here in the corner are light commercial. So we've got some flexibility because we do border that light commercial that gives us some opportunity to maybe go to the town for some zoning changes. So there's lots of possibilities of what I'm saying. What the group did is we went and talked to people we knew in the church and some of our own ideas. We came up with 35 ideas for using the church property. Everything from a community garden to commercial. It was, I mean, just a broad range of ideas. Took those ideas and we said, now what we got to do is boil this down, looking at our mission statement. Which of these ideas match up with the church's mission statement? And so the team got together and I asked each of them to write their top 2 or 3, the pros and the cons for those top 2 or 3 items, and how they would match our mission statement. So everybody did this individually. What came out of this was rather fascinating. There was 2 things that came out that just floated to the top of the list right away. One was some sort of housing, whether it be housing for the elderly, assisted living, low-income housing, but some sort of a housing project on this lot. That everyone said that the housing just came to the top right away. That's a way, it was kind of interesting, that's a way we could share certainly with our community. We could interact with our community is with housing. The other thing that came to the top is preschool, daycare, some sort of that purpose was the second thing that came to the top. Now, when you look at those things could go together kind of nicely. If you have maybe housing for the elderly or assisted living and a preschool, maybe on the bottom floor, those 2 things, I mean, could go together nicely. Now, let me just say, nothing has been decided. Nothing has been set in stone. All we've got so far is we went through a brainstorming of what are the possibilities. Then we kind of boiled that down, looking at our mission statement, what could fit into our mission statement. And those 2 things came to the top. Just as suggestions, as I said, nothing's written in stone. I don't want anybody to walk out of here and say, oh, the church is going to do this. We haven't decided yet. That's why we came to you at this point to get your input and your ideas and your support for what we can do in the future. Now, something else has happened as we were doing all of that. There's a group, I'm going to let Carl talk about this a little bit more in detail here, but there's a group called FaithWorks. They do this sort of work with churches. In fact, the guy that's the head of FaithWorks is a lifelong Methodist. So he knows the Methodist Church, but they work with churches to develop land that churches have in some fashion, doing research of feasibility studies and all the issues with the town and that sort of thing. And we've had some communication with them. In fact, on last Thursday, we went up to Winchester to look at a couple projects that they've worked with up in Winchester to get an idea of what they do and kind of the stuff they help us with. So Carl, I'll let Carl come in and talk a little more about Faith Works, and then we'll get into a question and answer period.
You know, I said to Tim when we were standing over there, I said, you know how I know this is a room full of Methodists? We got about 50 people standing in the back of the room in a wide open front row. So yeah, Chip and I, we kicked off working back on this probably in May even. It's probably been about 5 months because it's before I had my surgery and everything. So probably about 5 months ago, I reached out to Chip and I said, we really got to get back to working on this because the pandemic, as everybody knows, shut everything down for a while. So we got back into this about 5 months ago, and we started looking at the work we'd already done, which was really good work that we had already pushed to start doing. We had that list of 35 different things. We had our vision statement. We knew what was going to be on NLI 2.0, and we knew that we had been that 98% of this congregation had voted on us to figure out something to do with the rest of this land. So we felt fairly comfortable going forward with this project. In my own life, I reached out to somebody I knew who happened to know the head of Faith Works, and he's been working with the head of Faith Works on other projects recently. So we've been working with the head of Faith Works. His name is Bob Bolter. And if you go to their website, I think it's just faithworks.org, you can find out about them. They're typically more located in the Shenandoah Valley, but they have done work even in Fauquier County, even at Marshall United Methodist Church. So they have done work here. Bob, he worked for the first half of his career in DC. And what we really talked with them about is this idea for some sort of independent, probably senior housing, because that's going to be a lot less work on the church. Independent senior housing on our land, as well as figuring out a way to pair it with how we connect to, especially our young kids who we really do a great service to with Lump and Kingdom Kids, and how to maybe expand that. But then even in some further conversations, how do we continue reaching out to our kids and young people in this area, maybe with a space that is going to be more open to being able to be used by preschool and kids, but also other members of our community. So maybe some sort of multi-purpose space. And so we started talking with them about these things and where we are right now, because Chip said we haven't made a decision on anything yet, and that is true. Where we are right now is really in the discovery phase. After we've sort of had an idea of where we would like to maybe look at going, is where we are right now. We are going to look to connect with Faith Works, and what they're helping us do right now is to look at different grants to really figure out whether our project is even feasible or not. Whether this is something that we can do, whether it's something we're going to be able to afford long-term, whether it's something that really our community needs, because really anything we do as we relate it to our vision needs to have a way to connect with our community. And so that means, honestly, we could probably just sell off this land to some sort of contractor who would build an apartment building next year, and we would have neighbors next door, and we'd be happy about having neighbors, but it doesn't connect into our vision. And so what we're trying to really do here is figure out how to make this project happen while also connecting to the community next door, and connecting to whoever comes in and uses a multi-purpose building, and connecting even more with families who are a part of our preschool system. And so this is really rooted in the studies we're doing right now are rooted first off in economics, but also in what Sam called earlier the economics of God, because the economics of God are not just about dollars and cents. They are about how we connect with one another and how this community supports one another. This community being our church, but also the community around us and the world that God has put us to live in. And so where we are right now, once again, I think it's the fourth time I've said this, we are in this discovery phase. So what we're doing is FaithWorks has some really great connections with Virginia Housing, which used to be called VHDA, the Virginia Housing Development Authority or something, but now it's just called Virginia Housing. And what Virginia Housing has to offer are some grants to do some of these studies so that all of the financial investment into starting this project is not all on us. And so we are looking at doing some grants through Virginia Housing. One of the things that these grants would involve is making sure that at least 20% of the living units are affordable housing. And so depending on who was living there, some of the housing there, we would need to make sure was affordable. People were able to live there. And I think that's kind of something we would want to do anyway, even if it is sort of mixed as far as incomes go with people who live there. And that's something we will delve into further in the study. It's just a point of what we're doing when we look at some of these grants is how do we make sure that anybody who lives in our community can live in this space. And so that's something we're looking at doing. Along with that, Tim and I were working to have some appointments with our district superintendent to talk with our district superintendent about how we can connect with the Board of Missions, because we see this as being a really big, exciting project for our whole district to be a part of. And so we're going to be talking with her when she gets back in the country. I think she's out of the country right now. But we plan on talking to her soon. We're really excited with where we are and where we're going with this project, because when they bought this land in 1955, they said, we need to do something there. And their thought at the time was just a church. And yet when we got here in 1982, we probably looked around and we said, well, what in the world else could we do here? And we've been asking that question for 40 years now. And I am so excited and proud to be at a church that enables us and invites us to have this conversation with what we are doing with this property that God has given us, the way that we can steward this property that God has given us for our larger community. And so with that, I'm going to invite Chip back up here, and I'll stand with them, and we'll invite questions, because I am sure that your heads are spinning with all of the stuff that we just offered you. I'll just remind you once again, no decisions have been made about anything.
Yeah, we're just at the beginning of this process. One of the things, I mean, Carl kind of alluded to, one of the things the committee looked at is we wanted to do something to connect to the community, of course, to match up with our vision statement, but also wanted to look to do something that's income producing. So we've got a long-term income stream for the church. So that's some sort of housing and preschool daycare kind of fits into that too, that it could be an income stream for the church as well as a way to connect with our community. But glad to answer questions. Anyone got any questions, be glad to try to answer them. We're just, like I say, in the beginning of this, so we don't have any definites, but I'll be glad to answer questions.
And we really want questions because we need to be able to think through things really, really clearly and as much as possible. So any questions you have, we are happy to, even if we don't have the answer right now, to delve further into. Marcia.
You mentioned older people could reside in the housing, and there might be facilities for children, daycare, whatever. What about young adults or teen children? That's a real need within our community for them to have something to do.
Well, as Carl mentioned, we talked about a multi-use space. We went up to Winchester and looked at such a space that they've had up there for years. And it's got lots of possibilities. I mean, it looks like a basketball court, but we could do everything from volleyball to paddleball to whatever courts. Classrooms for organizations to rent out to use as classrooms. So we're also looking at that as a possibility of a multi-use space to do something for the youth. So our youth program could match up with that and maybe promote some more young people and have something for them to do here. So yeah, we're looking at that multi-use space. So there's kind of three things that we're looking at: is some sort of housing that would be an income stream. probably some sort of senior housing. As Carl mentioned, this fellow we talked to at FaithWorks really shied away from anything that's intensive, requires intensive staff, like assisted living or something like that. He said that's just becomes a problem. So it's more independent living, but maybe senior living, low income living, preschool, daycare, something of that nature, and then probably a multi-use space of some sort is kind of what our dream is right now, that what we're thinking about doing. Anything else? Any other questions?
Question.
Yeah, Brian?
Seems like, of course, every community, I suppose, has this. You've got people living in hotels, and we've got people that are homeless, and of course, the other side of the coin is that's going to require a lot of money to put into helping those people. But I wonder too, if maybe if you talk to the county and social services people about, they may have some ideas of what
We haven't as yet gone into detail, I don't think, with them, have we, Tim? Yeah. But that's certainly an idea to pursue, Bob. Yeah.
That would be part of the, I don't know if you mentioned it, the conversation we were talking about with our neighbors.
Yes.
That's what I was gonna say. Let me just mention that.
Yeah.
One of the things that we're gonna be talking about is we as a church are gonna be needing to talk to our neighbors. And so part of the feasibility, we need to start that conversation now, because now that we've said what we said today, guess what? The community, somebody's gonna go out and tell the community that we're gonna be building something where we're not saying that right now. We're saying we're in discovery phase. We haven't made any decisions. And that word's gonna get around. So part of what we have to do is just ask the community what they'd like, especially the ones right around us. So that's part of what we will be doing. The second piece that I think is real important for you to know is that we really have been taking a serious, that Bob actually and Rob really sort of want to know what's in the comprehensive plan. You all know what the comprehensive plan is, right? For the county and for the town. Because if we're going to try to rezone, we have to make sure that that matches up too. So I remember I mentioned this in a meeting that Ashley and I went to with the town planners. And they're like, we need green space. We need a park. I'm like, we need something that's going to make some revenue. We can't just have a park. So, but one of the things that Bob said was, we can set up some green space over here connected with the labyrinth and things like that. And that little ditch over there could look like a pond, and we could do, so part of what could, I mean, we really could make it nice to where it would be a park where folks could come and have lunch or whatever. And those are the types of things that he's suggesting is how we can get in well with the county and the town to be able to help them, but also help us at the same time. So I think that's really important for folks to know. And if you haven't looked at the comprehensive plan, I think it's important for you too, because there's stuff coming up that's needed that may be part of this that we could incorporate. So I thought about that as we were talking.
Anything else?
Marcia's got another.
Oh, Marcia.
Well, just a thought, that as you proceed, maybe it would be something like a page you could have on our website that would provide updates on what you're doing, and things, what you're finding out about the comprehensive plan, because I doubt if most of us are going to go down the local offices, town offices, and review that. So, key points that you find about that, those, how you're proceeding with the grant process. But I think other than the grant that you've mentioned, you might be able to pursue PATH and other areas in which you get grants.
Absolutely, that's a good idea, thank you. Yeah, it's a good idea. Has anyone that has questions, you think of a question later, call me, email me, whatever. I mean, we're looking for input here. We don't have all the answers. We're just asking lots of questions right now. So please don't hesitate to contact me, and I'll take all those seriously, because we want to do what's right for this church and what's right with God's plan for this church. So that's hopefully where we will go. And it's a great opportunity. I mean, the people that bought this land 40 some years ago, well, 55, my golly, that's 70 years ago. Time flies when you're having fun, then. They had some foresight. It's just, it's amazing to me that they gave us this gift that we have now to figure out how to use it and use it wisely, hopefully. Anything else? I'd be glad to.
Anybody on the screen?
Questions online?
You know, the comprehensive plan available on the county website?
Yes, a comprehensive plan is available on town website, yeah. And they narrowed it down. Originally, it was like 400 and some pages. It was, oh my gosh.
It's readable.
It's readable now. So this, they narrowed it, or they really reduced it down. It's readable now, but, yeah, it's available on the town website.
Michael?
Yeah, I don't know much about housing stuff. I know that, based on where my mother-in-law lives, over behind the firehouse, that's probably done by the firehouse. I'd be curious to talk to them to see if that's really an income stream, because I know a lot of those is empty. And so if you've got empty vacant stuff, and I'm sure there's people that look at this and say, okay, you've got this many units, you're probably gonna have, you're priced here, you're gonna have this many filled at any one time, you're gonna generate this kind of money well beyond my understanding and expertise, but I'd be curious about that.
Well, funny enough, before we even started the process of whittling things down, members of our team did have conversations, both them and the American Legion, who were starting up.
Yeah.
And we can get you some of those findings.
Okay.
I don't have them in front of me right now, but and I'm not going to make them up for you. But we can try and get you some of those findings on how they use those income streams.
All right.
Well, one of the things, this grant money that hopefully is available from the state will do is that sort of thing, a market analysis. What's the market here in town? Get actual data, not just, pieces of information from individuals, but actual data. What is the market availability here in town? So that's one of the things we want to get started on, is figuring out what, we've got this idea, but what kind of housing does the market really, what will it support?
Right.
And that's what we're looking at.
Okay. The other question I had was, you talk about income streams and all that kind of stuff. You talk about being able to take care of like kids, the young kids and stuff like that. But what about, our youth? We have, our youth has kind of been up and down. I know I've had my own family members who started going to other churches because of the dynamics of their youth program, the facilities they had available. No offense to anybody who's done youth stuff here. It's just that's where their friends were going in high school, and that's kind of what fit room over there.
So,
And I've watched those families migrate over there too. So that could be a draw to bring families back. We have a good youth center type of thing and make sure they're not overlooked, that next generation.
well,
Yeah, it does.
I'm happy you brought that up, and we mentioned this multi-purpose center. The reason we really came out with the multi-purpose center, one person on our long-range planning team, your wife actually, said we need some sort of multi-purpose center. And when we started talking with staff about this, Jeremy and Megan is going to be benefiting greatly from a bolstered preschool. They both came to me and said, we need somewhere for our youth to be able to be, some sort of multi-purpose facility. This town does not have a basketball court outside of a school that is indoors. Not even our rec center has one, which is highly unusual. How are we missing this in our town, this sort of stuff in our town? And so they were actually the ones that came to me and talked to me about that. And that is why one of the reasons that we started talking about that in the larger plan, having an area like that could be used by preschool, could be used by youth, could be used by somebody who wants to have a wedding on the cheap. Or
Or a family reunion.
Or a family
whatever.
reunion, yes. Or some sort of sports league. You might see Northern Piedmont Sports League using a place like that. But yeah, you're absolutely right, and that is one of the pushes and one of the conversations we're having when we talk about this plan.
So it's in there, we don't know what it looks like.
We don't know what anything looks like. We're like blind Bartimaeus, like Tim was talking about earlier. Yes, Tim.
The other thing I would invite folks to be thinking and praying about is that if we were able to get a preschool set up, we got a whole wing over here that's not being used during the week. So we've got a whole other opportunity for ministry that can be done in the very building we already have. So that's a completely open thing. We had talked about maybe a nonprofit incubator possibility, but the path is apparently building a big nonprofit incubator here in the future soon. So we need to be thinking about what that might look like too, because that gives us yet another opportunity for ministry, but it also gives us an opportunity, quite frankly, for another revenue stream,
which, you know, you don't want to think, in some ways, it's kind of weird to think that way, but that's the reality of where the church is. And not just our church, the church. Is how can we be innovative and connect with the community in ways that serves the community, and receives even income from that. So, just a thought.
Yeah, that's kind of the second part is, if we do build a preschool and daycare center, then what do we do with this wing over here? Because, I mean, Sunday school, the way a lot of us grew up with Sunday school is not happening now. It's just, that building sits there the rest of the week, the other 6 days empty. So that's something else to look at. That's part of what we're, kind of stage 2 of this thing is, what can we do with that wing over there to make it useful, not just be empty building sitting there. So there's lots to think about. Tim raised a good point. I wanted to, I'm not ending this, but I just want to say this, that we need your prayers. We need your prayers on what we should be doing with this property. So, anything else? Yes, back in the back.
All of you know me as Kelly Ashby. I've been in this neighborhood. I grew up around the street from here, and I was here when they built in the 80s, okay? And this was our free land for our little kids. I played on this playground. This was not a playground. It was a forest. It was trees and all of that. So again, I think we need to really pray and think about what the future holds for this property, because growing up here, this is my homeland. And when your church was put here, it was beautiful. I wasn't a Methodist back then, folks. So, you know, I'm one of the outsiders from the town, like we talked about earlier. We were going to get this. They're going to build something. But I think that we need to, like we've all said, we've all repeated and we thought about, if this wing becomes available, why not be an adult daycare?
Could
So
be.
many of us have grown where our parents are in places where they need care when we're not available, and we're at the working age. So, I mean, there's lots of things that we need to think totally outside the box. You know, if we build a 55 and over and we gave 20% of what we build to the people who are low income or widowed or left alone and they can't keep up their property, or those type of things that aren't really assisted living, they can walk to Old Town and do stuff. I just ask all of you to think really long and hard. We've sat here 40 years looking at this. We've done a lot to the inside of this building. This is an amazing space that God has given us. And I just ask that you, when you go into creating more and more, think and pray on it, because we have so many options of this land in the center of the town of Warrington. And that comes from a historic, love the town. Okay, folks, sorry.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly.
Anything else? All
I'll
righty.
invite Jeremy to tell us what we're doing back
There
there.
you go.
Where's Jeremy? Oh, there's Jeremy.
I don't need a mic, I'm loud enough.
No, give the mic, they can't hear you without her.
Oh, I guess I do need a mic.
Hold the bottom of it.
Y'all good? Can you hear me? All right, so this is not town hall related, but this is connecting with our community. We are partnering with Fauquier Fish to provide 100 bags. We're calling them snack packs. They do power packs that has a lot of stuff to get them through dinners. The snack packs are for students and families in our school system that cannot afford groceries, so we're giving them small stuff. So if you guys turn around behind you, you'll see that there's a U-shaped table with a gallon size plastic bag, and then we're doing one of each item. The only thing they're doubling up on is applesauce. So they get one pack of animal crackers, Cheez-Its, 2 applesauces, 1 thing of crackers, and another thing of granola bar. So it's one of each, you're just getting 2 applesauces. And then before you guys leave, if you guys could, if we're also wanting to donate these items for next month as we prepare, we're gonna pack these every month, the second Sunday of each month. So if you guys want to get a list of what you can donate, bulk is best, because we're wanting to get 100 of each item. So if you have any questions on what you can donate, these are on these. I'll put these on the table over by the door.
Your email on there, Jeremy?
It is not, so I'll get it out in another form.
You'll share it with them right now?
Yeah, my email is youth@warrentonumc.org. All right, and then for the youth that are here, you guys can open up the boxes and just lay them out on the tables. You guys can just do 1 bag at a time. There's like 50 people here. If you do 2 bags each, we're done. Sound good? All right, let us pray for these snack packs real quick. Let us pray.
Gracious God, thank you for the ways that you are calling this church, these people, your servants, ways to connect with our community, whether it be using our land or simply giving our time to pack these weekend snack packs for students who need our help. So continue to lead us, whether that be through our action, through our words, or even just through donating items to help these kids out. Continue to lead us to be the people who you're calling us to be. In your name we pray. Amen.
All right, I'll be over by the black bins when you're done, and the whole thing is you can just keep going in a circle. Go, go, go. All right, let's go.
Hey, guys, did y'all have any other questions before we jump off? It's good to see everybody. I'm going to turn off the meeting. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll catch you later.